All right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, citizens of YouTube. This is Pastor Dowell. Well, here we are, still late in this game right here, and we have many institutions out there in the world, mostly bureaucratic institutions, that are doing everything within their power. And mind you, their power is growing bigger and bigger and bigger. And their power is not derived from the Constitution, but it's derived from the government to infringe on the rights of Americans without a government bureaucracy or oversight. So what they do is they create all these alphabet organizations. They give them badges and guns, and then they use the modern day sheriff's department or whatever it is to try to back up their alphabet soup camps. You know what I mean? So you got all these different organizations out there, DHS, DCS, and then you got many things that's been created by the government outside the scope of the Constitution in order to try to regulate our lives. So now what we got in the mail again. I had someone send me this article, and I appreciate it because it really is something that needs to be talked about in the day and the time and hour that we're living in. You know just as well as I do that we've all been lied to on an extraordinary scale. And the way that things are presented to us, the way that we think things should run, you quickly find out that they don't run that way when you have to entangle yourself or you get into a tango with one of these bureaucratics, I don't know how you want to say it, or let's just say someone who wants to actually control your life, especially your children. They've always been after the children because one day these children are going to be adults very fast. And if they're going to create a world where everybody's going to function the way that they intended on for people to live, they've got to get them at a very early age. Now, for those of us that are biblical, we understand and we comprehend that when we have a child, the child belongs to us. And many of you don't understand that when you do have a child out there, your child does not belong to you. It actually belongs to the state. And the reason being is because at the times of that contract, at the times of that agreement that we end up creating, simply because everybody else has done it. I mean, we did it because everybody else did it, and everybody else said that's what we need to do. So we went out and we created a third-party contractual agreement with the state. We actually entered into a polygamous union without our knowledge, because all the terms and the conditions of that particular document was not even disclosed to us at the signing. It was deception. And so we have a child or two or three. We, by natural order, truly believe in our heart that the child is ours. And by the natural order of things, the child really truly is yours. The child belongs to you. But when you go out, you start contracting, and you start signing all these documents without any knowledge whatsoever at all, you quickly find out that when you got a marriage license, that all the fruit that comes from that union, i.e. children, actually belongs to the state, and you end up becoming a ward of the state. And the state is going to protect, the state is going to regulate, the state is going to officiate, the state is going to do everything it can to protect its children, but at your expense, because after all, you are charged and levied for the financial upbringing of this child right here, even though the state is the sole authority. Now, I know that me and you are going to argue with me, and you're going to argue me down on this. And again, when I present information on here, you know, if you don't do your due diligence, you can sit here and argue with me all day long, but the facts nevertheless still remains that if they were your children, then why does the state come in and forcibly make you comply? Why do they tell you flat out, this is what you're going to do with their child? You need to research this stuff and then try to figure out how to get untangled. What we have here again, now mind you, Proverbs 22 verse 6, for those of us that are biblically sound, it tells us to train up a child in the way that they should go. And when they get old, they won't depart from the faith. Now, how old is old? I don't know. The whole ideal is if you train them up in the right way, when they get old, they won't depart from the faith. Many children growing up today, they can grow up in a biblical, healthy, moral environment. And because of the fallen nature of man and the thoughts that are submitted to the mind, they figure that they've got to go out and do everything that you've already done. And they think that because they are armed with knowledge, that this is going to somehow, some way, going to give them an advantage in the world. But I've seen every single one of them fall at the hand of the unregenerated spirit. I've seen every single one of them end up worse than the people who had no knowledge at all before. But I want to read this article here for a second. And this is as recent as December 7, 2018. And it's a homeschooling parent in Worcester was arrested in her home. Can you imagine that? Here you are, a parent, and this is your child, and you get arrested in your home, but now she's suing. Well, let's see how this goes out. Let's see how this turns out. So let's look at this article here for a second, okay? Now check this out right here, all right? And listen to me real close, okay? Because Pastor Dowell is telling you what your pastors, your preachers, and your teachers will not do, because they don't want you free. Not only don't want you free, they don't want you to be in control of your own life. They want you to continue on with the system and continue to capitulate, continue to acquiesce, continue to keep doing everything that the system wants. And if you know, just like I do, that if the system takes a little bit, it's going to continue to keep going until they get it all. And so there has to be a line drawn in the proverbial sand somewhere. A lawsuit filed last week alleges that a Rochester school committee and the city superintendent, as well as the State Department of Children and Families, violated the constitutional rights of a woman and a son she was homeschooling. Let's get into this a little bit more, all right? Just as a woman and son speaks nothing about marriage so far. Let's go on. The lawsuit alleged that police knocked at Jocelyn Goodall's door on March 30th, saying her son had missed so much school that they were there to confirm the 8-year-old boy, called A.S. in the suit, was living and breathing. Watch this now. But the situation escalated quickly. The complaint says that the police threatened to force open the door after Goodall's refusal to admit them. When she relented, the lawsuit says that the officers handcuffed Jocelyn, ordered her in a loud, raised voice to sit down, like you're some type of dog or something, and took her to the police station with no charges filed. Now, that right there is grounds for a lawsuit. Now, whether the law is going to be interpreted right, whether the law is going to actually work for her is another thing, because it depends on what county, what state she's in, and it depends on who has that black robe on. Because the truth is, you and I, we don't have the money to take stuff all the way to the Supreme Court and wait 5-10 years for them to actually hear our argument. And most people know that, because the truth is, if you're going to get any justice in this land, you're going to have to have money first. You're going to have to have money. And too many times, more often than not, lawyers do not take cases that they know they can't win. They're just not going to sit there and hear your trifling argument. And mind you, I'm saying that with all due respect, much love. I really truly am, and much respect. I say that because we're not as informed as we think we are. And we operate in a realm in our minds that we know it is lawful, just, true, and righteous. But then there's a system out here. I keep telling you that when we were born, it was already in place. And many people don't care about righteousness and order and what's yours and how for you to enjoy the fruit of your life in this life. All they care about is a paycheck. And if they have to be oppressive to you and step on you, then they'll do it. But however, if the shoe is turned and is put on their foot, where they are the one that's actually suffering from the tyranny of government and oversight of government. Now all of a sudden they want to complain, they want everybody to hear. So they have done a very good job at keeping us divided. Let's go on. Goodell contends this was an extraordinary escalation in response to her decision to homeschool her own son. She says she has submitted what she believed to be the requisite paperwork to Rochester superintendent in January, including an educational plan and a promise to share request progress reports with the district. So she put in the request, now mind you, and then you got to actually report to them about the progress of your children. You know, I'm really sympathetic towards this, and I have empathy towards this because I took my children out of school, and I ain't signed no paperwork, no nothing. I just took them out, and we homeschooled our children, and we used ABECA program at the beginning, and then we went on to ACS or something like that. Anyway, it goes. My youngest, my daughter, Lydia, she actually went to college on academic scholarship at 16 years old. I wonder how many other people can say that. But I will tell you this, is that it took a concerted effort from myself and my wife for the education of both my son and my daughter, because we had to be very involved in their lives, especially in the education, because they ask questions. And there's many times that we had to actually go and restudy the subject ourselves because we're far removed from school, in order to be able to present the right information from them so that they would receive an education that we did ourselves. Remember, it's Proverbs 22, verse 6, train up a child in the way that they should go, and when they get old, they won't depart from the faith. All right. So we go on here. All right. State law recognizes that students who are being instructed in a manner approved in advance by the superintendent or the school committee should not be subject to the state's compulsory attendance statute. Man, don't you just love the wording? The complaint alleges that the Rochester superintendent never replied with approval of her plan. Well, no, because do you know, do you know how much every single school gets for every child that is enrolled in school by the state? There's an incentive there. There's motivation there. There's a financial responsibility there. And anytime you take a child out from the public school system and stuff, man, you're starting to get into their pocketbooks. And when you're starting messing around with the government pocketbooks and stuff, we're going to have problems, because the government don't like you messing around with their bottom line. That includes states, cities, parishes, local officials, and public schools or private schools. Goodell's attorney, Robert Pateron, writes that Massachusetts legal precedents in care and protection of Charles, that's 1987, establishes that in that situation, the burden of proof shifts to the school committee to show that the instruction outlined in the homeschool proposal fails to equal in thoroughness and efficiency, and in the process made therein that in that public school in the same town. Instead, the complaint alleges that the Rochester Public Schools reached out to the Department of Children and Families. Now, this is another bureaucratic oversight, or another bureaucratic department that's been created that has no constitutional right or backing or force of anything, unless they come to your house with guns blazing and some dumb sheriffs that don't know what the hell they're doing. Check this one out. This new alphabet bureaucrat is DCF. Another one. Oversight, regulation, more intrusive into our lives in order to trump us from our right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of property. I was getting ready to say happiness, but I'm going to go ahead and say it like you and I have been taught. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, but the truth is, it should be life, liberty, and the pursuit of property. Alleging that Goodell's son was trumped and possibly being neglected. I don't even know what that word is. Trumped and possibly being neglected. Anyway, leading to a traumatic scene at her home. A national group called the Homeschools Legal Defense Association has taken up Goodell's case. Oh, so that's where the money is coming in now. Presenting that the emulatic of problems with Rochester's at the District of Massachusetts as a state. The self-styled Christian organization, a national nonprofit that provides legal assistance to homeschool families, shared a video of Goodell and her story on its Facebook page. And it's got a little link right here. I'll put the link to this article below in case you want to read it and then go to it and actually go to it and look at it yourself. So the Homeschool Legal Defense Association has labeled in Massachusetts as one of the 5 states with the nation's strictest regulations of homeschooling. It is one of just 2 states to require superintendent approval before homeschooling can begin. Man, that sounds like, man, what in the world, man? Don't that sound oppressive? You mean you got to have approval from a superintendent before you can school your own child? First thing you do is you pick up your home and you move out of Massachusetts. You can move. All you got to do is just get up and move. Well, I got a job. Move. Get another one. Anyway, let's go on. Michael Donnelly and Homeschool Legal Defense Association attorney says that the problem isn't limited to Rochester. Matter of fact, in Massachusetts, there has been happening over the last 12 to 18 months is that the school district have been referring homeschool families to the Department of Children and Families for investigation of what they call educational neglect. I would have been happy to put my 2 children up against any children in the United States of America when myself and my wife homeschooled them. I'd have been glad to do that in any test, whatever you wanted to do. It makes no difference to me. But check this out, though. Educational neglect over essential paperwork disputes, Donnelly said. The DCF declined to respond to the allegations. The WPS officials declined to comment, but to say that they weren't aware of instances in which the district directed DCF to the homeschooling families that had submitted the appropriate paperwork. Paige Toblin, an attorney working for the district, said in July 2018, change in policy wasn't a crackdown on homeschool students, but something much more procedural. The school committee voted to clarify their existing policy and practice regarding approval of these new applicants for homeschooling, that students must attend their assigned school until approved was received. Thought you was the parent. What do you need to get approval for them for? What happened to freedom, liberty? Anyway, and believe me, I understand the concern because there are a lot of deadbeat parents that use homeschooling as an excuse when they get upset. Because I can't tell you how many children are pulled out of school when parents get upset when the school is not doing the way they think it is, but they're really truly not interested in the child's education. And I can understand the system does not want to raise a bunch of bumbling idiot of the children, children in society that's very dysfunctional in society. Believe me, I get it. I get it very well. That still doesn't give them the right to infringe on your rights as parents. According to the report in the Rochester Telegram and Gazette, other families have raised similar concerns to the school committee this summer. Only families who are really truly have an invested interest in their child's education. They're very serious about it. Most parents just simply not. And most parents, let's tell the truth, don't have the mental aptitude, neither do they have the intelligence to be able to really truly school their children. Let's just be real. Neither are you going to get too much of us education in public school system, because when you look at it, there are children graduating public school now that can't even read and much less even write. Can't do math, general arithmetic. Bill Hill runs the Massachusetts Home Learning Association. Man, that's a whole bunch of them, ain't it? A voluntary organization that dates back to Charles' decision and is separate from the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. He said that homeschooling policies vary from district to district, but that some districts do have problems with that gray area between when schools take a look at the educational plan and reply to approve or disapprove. And they're going to drag their feet because I keep telling you they have an invested interest. I'm almost done. Huer declined to comment on Goodell's case in particular, but he noted that Rochester expects it may take 2 or 3 months to come to a decision on students, which he doesn't consider timely. He said the involvement of authorities when applicants' papers are in the superintendent's hands is regrettable. Why raise issues with the DCF and get them involved when they probably don't have to be? Huer asked. It seems to be something outside of the spirit of the law. Goodell is seeking unspecified compensatory damages for what she calls an unconstitutional policy, and it is, that interfered with her fundamental right under the 4th Amendment, and she is 100% right, or at least her attorneys are. And what has to happen is that they've got to push this hard in order to get rid of this oversight that all of us seems to be up under with all these alphabet soup organizations that is stripping and eroding away our, I'm going to use this term loosely, civil rights. So under the 4th Amendment for the mental pain and suffering inflicted upon her and her son, that's called punitive damages. She also asked the district court to make a declaration that Rochester's policies on homeschooling are illegal and unconstitutional, and that the students should not be reported to DCF while districts have their homeschooling paperwork. State data shows that almost 7,500 Massachusetts students were homeschooled in the 2016-17 year, including 153 in Rochester. Or Rochester, I don't know how to pronounce it. Anyway, is that not tyranny? Is that not wicked? Think, and stop being tone deaf. Listen to Pastor Dowell. Listen. You need to start investigating things you think you believe that are right. And start doing your own investigation, do your own due diligence, because a lot of times when people are ruling over you to their own hurt, the one thing that they bank on is you never ever going to sources and checking out what they're saying. They want you just to receive what they say simply because they say it, or they have alphabets after their name. They just want you to believe it because they are, quote unquote, a sole authority. But don't be stupid like that. Don't be dumb. Go and check out and look out and research everything. Don't be a mind-numb, drooling, bobbed-head idiot for this system. And let them continue to keep ruling over you simply because you don't know their laws. Read them. Become proactive. Whew. Man, I tell you, I hate it. I really, truly do.